Hey, I'm Jessica with Electra, and today I'm going to share 5 makeup items you probably don't really need. So here's the thing. You can see a lot of makeup back there, and I love it, and I use a lot of it. I use 90% of it, I'd say, but I can't use it all at one time. And so at some point you just reach a tipping point, right? And that's kind of where I am. So I'm really focusing on using up the things that I'm not super in love with and paring it down just to what I absolutely love and use all the time, which is still a lot of makeup. But you know, for all intents and purposes, we're trying to streamline, and in doing that, I've been finding some things that I can swap out so I don't have to have, 14 different items in my bag that basically all do the same thing. I'm going to show you a few things today you can manipulate to have multiple uses. And actually, as I'm looking at it, I'm going to give you 6. Breaking news. So the first thing is eyeshadow primer. Eyeshadow primer is meant to smooth out your eyelid, prep it for eyeshadow, help the eyeshadow colors be more bold, and last longer. Guess what else does that? Any of these guys. So the first thing that works great is just your plain old concealer. Specifically a concealer you might have purchased for your under eye area or somewhere on your face, and for whatever reason it doesn't work. For me, that was Shape Tape. It's great, but it's just way too drying for my under eye, and this shade is clearly too light for my skin. So I use this as an eyeshadow primer just a little bit. Now here's the thing, when you have a wet eyeshadow base and you're putting powder on top of it, you want to make sure that whatever is wet is set, because if you're swirling in a powder product, it can disturb that product and it can make things get all streaky and crazy. So I like to top it with the powder. But if you don't want to do all those steps, you just want one quick eyeshadow base, I highly suggest getting a powder that's slightly lighter than your skin. This is a pressed one. Swipe that on your eye and then swipe on your eyeshadow. It's going to help it last. It's going to help, do everything that a regular eyeshadow primer would. The third option is a good old cream eyeshadow. So some of them can be ultra sticky, but if you have something that dries down quickly, cream eyeshadow makes an amazing eyeshadow primer. The next item is a transition shade. Now this is, I have been trained as a professional makeup artist. I am a certified makeup artist, which is, let's just be honest, paper, because you learn more by being a working makeup artist, which I also am and have been for over a decade, and I have never once heard the term transition shade. The only time I ever heard it was on YouTube, but basically what they mean is this sort of shade in your crease to help define your eyes, right? Or if you're transitioning from a darker to a lighter shade, you do need something sort of in between to make sure the colors blend correctly. So what I started doing was, instead of having a specific transition shade, is I just started using my bronzer. And whatever bronzer you're putting on your face that day, even if it's a cream one, just take it, slap it on the center of your eye, and that might be the only eyeshadow you need. Or if you want to go crazy and go to town, it still helps to have something to kind of anchor your crease. So I just use my bronzer. I don't have an extra eyeshadow anymore, and it works beautifully. So we talked about eyeshadow primer. You don't really need a face primer. I used to be on the primer train for years until I realized what I needed a primer for was just to kind of hydrate, plump up my skin so that any foundation or powder I put on top of it would just kind of all melt together. Well, instead of a hydrating primer, just use a good old moisturizer. This is the best one, Ombre Elise. You can get it from Beautylish. It's where I get mine. And it lasts forever. It has a really long shelf life. This is going to last me another year. And, I've had it for a while. It's also really great if you want to sheer down like your foundation, or you want to, what I typically use it for is to mix in to use for under eye concealers. You can use it as an eye cream. You can use it as a face mask. You can use it to take off your makeup. It's amazing. But really any moisturizer will do. Now, if you have specific concerns, like let's say you want something that's going to blur your pores, you want something with oil control, in that sense I would absolutely use a primer. But if you just want something that's going to prep your skin for makeup, just stick with the moisturizer. You don't need a special primer. Now hear me out on this. You do not need foundation. You want your skin to breathe and have life and have dimension, and if you put one layer of product on there, it's going to be flat. So then you're going to have to go in and add bronzer, blush, concealer, highlighter, all of that, just to make your face not look so flat. You could just go ahead and straight up use a concealer, which if you followed me for any amount of time, you know I have what I call the starting 6. So concealer, bronzer, brows, liner, lashes, lips. It gets you out the door quickly, it covers all your bases, gives your face dimension, And I just like to take a little concealer sort of, you know, in the center of my face and blend it out. The reason I do that versus foundation is because concealer has more pigment in it. And if I'm only using a little bit, I want to get most bang for my buck. So most of the time, I just skip foundation. You don't need it. The fifth thing is mascara primer. And I'm in the middle of mascara trials. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that this has been going on for about a year. But really, it's been going on for about 10 years. That's a whole other topic. But one of the things I have discovered is you really don't need a lash primer. If you want something there, I suggest going in, like this is the L'Oreal Telescopic. I also love the Maybelline Lash Stiletto. Using this, it's like a really lengthening mascara with a really thin brush, as you can see, right? Use that first to comb through your lashes and add a layer of something. And then you can go back in with your volumizing mascara and you basically have primed your lashes. You're going to add length, and then another layer is going to add volume, especially if it's a volumizing formula with a bigger brush. Go ahead and save your money, skip a lash primer. The kind of bonus item that I don't know why I didn't think about, but I guess it's because you've probably heard this before, but I haven't been using cream blush that often. I have a few, but what I reach for instead is a really nice pigmented lipstick. You just dot it on your cheeks, press it in, you're good to go, and it lasts for a really long time. And if you still want to use powder on top of it, you can, and that's going to give your blush even more longevity. Those are my 6 items you don't need in makeup. The other items can do double duty. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.